Rain lashed against the attic window, the rhythm like a frantic heartbeat. Inside, I hunched over my dusty desk, the floorboards groaning under my weight. My hand, a traitor possessed by an invisible tremor, danced across the weathered parchment, leaving a trail of spidery lines that barely resembled an ancient oak. Still can't draw a straight line, can you, Elias? I muttered, frustration gnawing at me. With a sigh, I tossed the quill onto the table, the ink splattering in a perfect mocking circle. My reflection in the inkwell stared back, etched with worry lines that deepened with each passing year. A sudden gust of wind rattled the window panes, sending shivers down my spine. The temperature in the attic seemed to drop 10 degrees, and a primal fear prickled my skin. For a fleeting moment, I was back there, deep within the suffocating embrace of the fens, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Laughter echoed through the trees, familiar and taunting, then dissolved into an unsettling whisper. Elias. I whipped around, heart hammering against my ribs. The room was empty, save for the dancing shadows cast by the flickering oil lamp. But the echo of the whisper lingered, chilling me to the bone. It was the same voice, the same chilling tone that had haunted my dreams for years. The name wasn't spoken in Whisperwood anymore. Not since they found Thomas. They called it the Silence now, a hollow echo of the vibrant forest it once was. And here I was, back in the heart of it all, fleeing the ghosts of my past. The rain outside intensified, drumming a relentless tattoo on the roof. I yearned for the comforting sounds of city life, the constant hum of traffic, the distant siren. Anything but this oppressive silence, punctuated only by the whispers of the wind and the ghosts in my head. A creak on the stairs below sent another jolt of fear through me. Just old man Hawthorne checking in on the prodigal son, but the timing felt wrong, almost ominous. I rose, my hand instinctively reaching for the compass that hung around my neck, a relic from my cartographer days. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself down the narrow stairs, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. As I reached the landing, the whispers intensified, a cacophony of voices swirling around me, indistinguishable but undeniably there. I pushed open the attic door, stepping into the dim hallway, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Elias? Old man Hawthorne stood before me, his wrinkled face etched with concern. He held a mug of steaming tea, the aroma a welcome relief from the musty air. Just unpacking, I stammered, my voice hoarse. Been a long journey. He narrowed his eyes, his gaze lingering on the compass around my neck. You know, son, he began, his voice low and raspy. Some places are best left undisturbed. My breath caught in my throat. What do you mean? He shook his head, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. The silence ain't what it used to be, Elias. It whispers secrets now, promises things it can't deliver. A shiver ran down my spine. Secrets? He took a slow sip of his tea, his gaze fixed on the flickering candlelight. Secrets about what happened to Thomas, he said, his voice barely a whisper, and what it might do to you next. The whispers outside seemed to grow louder, more insistent, as if urging me to listen, to step back into the darkness I had so desperately tried to escape. A cold sweat prickled my skin, and I knew, with a horrifying certainty, that despite my fears, I couldn't turn back. Old man Hawthorne's words hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the cheerful bustle that filled the kitchen the next morning. Villagers greeted me with forced smiles and nervous glances, their whispers dying down as I approached. They called me Elias, the cartographer, a title that felt both familiar and distant. I caught Anya, a young girl with fiery red hair, stealing furtive glances at me. Her brother, Peter, had gone missing a few days ago, swallowed by the ever-growing maw of the silence. Anya's eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, were clouded with worry. "Mr. Thorne," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "can you help me find Peter?" A pang of guilt stabbed at me. I should never have returned. His whispers haunted me even in the daylight, weaving their insidious tales of the past. But seeing Anya's pleading eyes, I couldn't turn away. I can try," I stammered, my voice weak. A flicker of hope ignited in her eyes. "You have maps, right? Maybe you can find a way through the silence." Maps. The thought sent a tremor through my hands. My fingers, once nimble and precise, now struggled to hold a quill. Could I even navigate through the twisted heart of the forest again? "I don't," I began, but Anya cut me off. "Please, Mr. Thorne," she begged, her voice cracking. "He's all I have left." I couldn't ignore her plea. The whispers, though terrifying, were just that. Fear wouldn't stop them. But maybe, just maybe, my knowledge of the forest could. "All right, Anya," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "Let's go see Old Man Hawthorne." He sat by the crackling fireplace, his face etched with lines deeper than the furrows in the ancient oak table before him. His gaze flickered across my face, a flicker of disapproval followed by a weary sigh. "You know the risks, Elias," he said, his voice rough and gravelly. "The silence ain't what it used to be. It's changed." I nodded, my throat tightening. "I know, but I can't just stand by while—" "While what, boy?" he interrupted, his voice sharp. "While another gets lost in its shadows. The forest has a way of claiming what it desires." His words chilled me to the bone, but Anya's tear-filled eyes spurred me on. "We have to try," I insisted. Hawthorne studied me for a long moment, his silence thicker than the smoke swirling around the chimney. Then, with a sigh, he reached into a drawer and pulled out a tattered map. "This ain't the most recent," he warned, his voice softer now, "but it's all I have. There might be new paths, new dangers." I unfolded the map, the familiar symbols and lines dancing before my eyes. My hand trembled, but I forced it steady. This was my chance to confront my past, to appease the ghosts that haunted me, and maybe, just maybe, save a life. "Thank you," I muttered, my voice thick with emotion. Hawthorne nodded curtly. "Just be careful, Elias." He paused, his gaze searching mine. "The whispers can be tempting. Don't listen to them." His words sent shivers down my spine. The whispers had already begun, faint at first, then growing louder, urging me deeper into the embrace of the silence. I took a deep breath, trying to drown them out. With the map clutched in my hand and Anya's worried gaze upon me, I stepped out into the bright sunshine, the weight of the whispers and the weight of responsibility settling heavy on my shoulders. As I entered the forest, the sunlight dwindled, replaced by an eerie green half-light that filtered through the dense canopy. The whispers grew stronger, weaving a tale of fear and doubt, a symphony of despair. But I pressed on, my steps resolute, the map clutched tightly in my hand, determined to face whatever the silence held within its depths, and hopefully find Peter before it was too late. The forest floor crunched beneath our feet, the silence broken only by the rustle of leaves and the frantic beat of my heart. Anya, her eyes wide with fear, clutched my arm, her small hand surprisingly strong. The map, once crisp and clear in the morning light, was now damp and practically illegible in the dimness. The sunlight barely penetrated the thick canopy, casting long, twisted shadows that danced and contorted like phantoms. The whispers grew louder, no longer faint echoes, but a constant barrage of voices, swirling around us like a hungry swarm. They spoke of lost souls and forgotten dreams, promising solace and tempting me to stray from the path. Ignore them, I muttered through gritted teeth, more to myself than to Anya. My voice sounded weak in the vast silence. A low, mournful cry echoed through the trees, sending chills down my spine. Anya whimpered, burying her face in my arm. Just an owl, I mumbled unconvincingly, though the sound sent a shiver down my own spine. The forest seemed to close in around us. The trees gnarled and twisted like clawed hands reaching for the sky. The air grew thick and humid, the scent of decaying leaves and damp earth clinging to my clothes. Suddenly, Anya stopped, pointing ahead. Through the dense undergrowth, I saw a faint flicker of light, an unnatural green luminescence that pulsed rhythmically. My heart hammered against my ribs. The map mentioned nothing like this. "What is it?" Anya whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. A morbid curiosity gnawed at me, but fear held me rooted to the spot. The whispers grew insistent, urging me closer, promising answers. Taking a deep breath, I gripped the map tighter. No, I wouldn't succumb to their lure. I had to stay focused, find Peter, and get us out of this nightmare. "We should turn back," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. Anya hesitated, her gaze fixed on the pulsating light, but slowly, reluctantly, she nodded. We turned to retrace our steps, but the familiar path seemed to have vanished. The trees, once distinguishable landmarks, now stood identical, a maze of twisted branches and tangled undergrowth. Panic clawed at my throat. We were lost. The whispers grew frantic, a cacophony of voices surrounding us, taunting and jeering. I shut my eyes, trying to block them out, but the sound burrowed deep, weaving its insidious web of fear and despair. Just as despair threatened to consume me, I heard a different sound, a faint whimper. A flicker of hope sparked within me. "Peter!" I called out, my voice hoarse. The whimper came again, closer this time. I pushed through the undergrowth, Anya following close behind. We stumbled into a clearing bathed in the unnatural green light. In the center stood a towering oak, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. And beneath it, huddled in a ball, was a small figure. "Peter!" Anya cried, rushing towards him. But as she got closer, I screamed, a primal cry erupting from my throat. Peter looked up, his eyes vacant, replaced by an unsettling hunger. A chilling smile stretched across his face, and a voice, deep and guttural, echoed in my mind. "Welcome home, Elias." Terror froze me in place. My mind, overwhelmed by the horrific revelation, struggled to grasp the twisted scene before me. Anya, oblivious to the danger, knelt beside the possessed Peter, her arms reaching out to embrace him. "Peter?" she whispered, her voice filled with hope and confusion. The monstrous voice thundered in my head. "Don't listen to her, child. Join us. Become one with the silence." Anya flinched, the unnatural hunger in Peter's eyes finally registering on her face. She scrambled back, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Elias," she cried, fear replacing the hope in her voice. "Run, Anya!" I screamed, my voice hoarse with terror and desperation. But before she could react, twisted vines, erupting from the ground beneath the oak, snaked towards her, their movements swift and deadly. A primal scream tore from Anya's throat as the vines ensnared her, her struggles futile against their unnatural strength. My heart lurched, a searing pain ripping through me. I couldn't let her die. I had to do something, anything. The possessed Peter, now focused on the new victim, turned away from me. It was my only chance. Drawing on the last reserves of my strength, I lunged forward, grabbing the map from my pocket. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of voices trying to drown out my thoughts. "Remember, Elias?" The monstrous voice boomed in my head. "The forest takes what it desires. You can't escape its grasp." Ignoring the whispers, I spread the map on the ground, my hands shaking. I had to find a way out, a weakness, anything to exploit. My gaze fell on a faded inscription on the parchment, barely visible in the dim light. It spoke of an ancient ritual, a pact that could bind the spirits of the silence back to their prison beneath the earth. But the price was steep. It demanded a single sacrifice, a soul offered willingly in exchange for the release of the others. A cold dread filled me as I understood the true purpose of Peter's abduction. He wasn't the target, he was bait. The whispers had lured me back, hoping I would become the sacrifice. I looked at Anya, her face contorted in terror, her pleas for help echoing in my mind. My stomach churned with guilt, with the sickening weight of the impossible choice. The monstrous voice chuckled, a chilling sound that slithered through the clearing. "You hesitate, Elias. Time is running out." Anya's whimpers grew frantic. I had to act. With a heavy heart, I knelt beside the map, tracing the symbols of the ritual with a trembling finger. Each touch sent a jolt of fear through me, but the image of Anya, her life hanging in the balance, fueled my resolve. Tears streamed down my face as I completed the ritual, the words tasting like ashes on my tongue. As I finished, a blinding light erupted from the map, engulfing the clearing. The earth trembled, and the possessed Peter screamed, a sound of pure agony. The vines holding Anya loosened, dropping her to the ground in a crumpled heap. She scrambled back, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. But before she could react, the light intensified, sucking the possessed Peter and the monstrous voice into the ground. The clearing plunged back into darkness, the only sound my ragged gasps and Anya's whimpering sobs. I had saved Anya, but at what cost? The weight of my sacrifice settled on me like a suffocating cloak. As the tremors subsided and the dust settled, I knew my life in Whisperwood was forever changed. The whispers were gone, replaced by an unsettling silence. But the memory of their seductive promises and the chilling truth of my choice would forever linger, a constant echo in the chamber of my heart.